Hello and welcome to Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and with me, as always, is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. So, Pavitra, market has been, on the flat line right now. 18,000 is still what is defended by the market quite effectively, but it's the broad-based nature of the market that everybody is questioning. So at the moment, let's take a quick look at where Nifty 50 is at 18,417 levels on the flat line, but still showing a green tinge. It did touch its 52-week high as well. So that's like a good showing coming in. Kotak Mahindra Bank, Coal India, after it went ex-dividend yesterday, was under pressure, is showing some momentum today in trade. Eicher Motors, Dr. Reddy's, HDFC Bank. So some of the heavyweights like HDFC Twins have really given a lot of momentum to Nifty 50 to reach this kind of a level of 18,400. But when we talk about the mid-cap universe, that is underperforming today, 0.3% down. So there is no broad-based participation. Bank Nifty is outperforming the key indices like it did yesterday. Market breadth still remains on the weaker side.
All right, so the market is quite flat right now, but what we've been talking about since the morning is the fact that we're so close to all-time highs, right? It's almost like the market is teasing you at this point. You're very close to that level, so we're just tracking that for, for the market. What is really standing out today is once again the banking names. In fact, let's pull a few of these up. Today, you have the likes of Kotak, HDFC doing well. If you take a look at HDFC Bank, by the way, in just 1 month, it has seen a 9% up move. That is the kind of trend that we've seen here. A lot of the smaller names as well, whether it's a Union Bank, a Karnataka Bank, South Indian Bank, look at the kind of momentum that you're seeing in these stocks. So this pocket sort of really remains in focus. You also have some of the IT names which have found themselves as the top gainers. On the downside, perhaps today, the metal names looking a little bit weak. That's the market action. We're going to come back to this. But first up, let me begin the show with bringing you some important developments from the G20 summit, which is underway in Bali, Indonesia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi officially took over India's G20 presidency from Indonesia's President Joko Widodo a short while back. Remember, India will officially assume the G20 presidency from the 12th of December. Now, addressing the summit after taking over the presidency, Prime Minister Modi said that it is a matter of great pride for every Indian citizen. He also said that India's G20 presidency will be inclusive, ambitious, and action-oriented. Finally, he said that it will be India's endeavor to ensure that G20 works as a global prime mover to give impetus to collective action. Meanwhile, the G20 group of world leaders agreed to a joint communique that stated that most of the leaders strongly condemned the war in Europe, but also acknowledged that there were other views on the matter as well. Now, the statement also denounced the use of any kind of nuclear weapons and said that today's era must not be one of war.
All right, so that's an important development, but we'll keep it with some of the international developments really taking place, which are having an impact all across the world. And fresh geopolitical tensions, they have emerged after 2 people are killed in Poland after Russia made missile land in its territory. Now, while Russia has denied responsibility, United States President Joe Biden also says that it's unlikely that the Russian-made missile that hit a Polish village on Tuesday was fired from Russia. Sanjay Suri, our correspondent, has this report.
This missile attack on Poland is potentially deadly serious because we have Article 5 of the NATO Convention that says that an attack on any one member will be considered an attack on all allies in that principle of collective defense. But there are indications emerging now that the US may be stepping back and taking NATO back from potentially a devastating confrontation directly on the ground with Russian forces. We have a statement from President Biden saying that it is unlikely that this was fired by the Russians, or rather oddly an eagerness towards agreement between Moscow and Washington on this. There is also a second line of defense that has been set up, again coming from the US, and US officials indicating that they will consider intent, that even if it turns out on evidence locally that this was a Russian missile, that if the intent was not to attack Poland and if this was a mistake, and of course it's been a mistake with serious consequences, 2 people have died, but if that was the case, NATO would still step back from a direct confrontation. It's clear that there is an eagerness now in NATO circles to avoid an escalation of this conflict into a direct confrontation with Russia. That confrontation is significant and substantial enough already, and coming from NATO. It is NATO that is supplying and equipping Ukrainian forces on the ground and in the air, and has been doing so very effectively. But that is still short of direct confrontation. That could be a World War III scenario that everyone wishes to avoid.
All right, Sanjay, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details on that one. But we'll also hear out what the Polish Prime Minister as well as Ukraine's Zelensky had to say after the Russian-made missiles landed in Poland. Listen in.
We're now working to establish the causes of what happened and everything that took place during the incident, with international experts whom we have invited to our group of experts, who have been working at the scene for several hours. We've asked for support of allies with whom we are in constant contact.
We were warning about what happened today a long time ago. We talked about it. Terror is not limited to our national borders. It's already spread to the territory of Moldova. And today, Russian missiles hit Poland, the territory of our friendly neighbor. People died. Please accept condolences from all Ukrainian brothers. How many times has Ukraine said that the terrorist state will not be limited to our country?
All right, in the light of these new geopolitical tensions emerging, well, the US President Joe Biden was also asked about the missiles landing in Poland, and he believes that it is unlikely that the missiles were fired from Russian territory. Listen in.
Contest that. I don't want to say that till we completely investigate, but it is. It's unlikely in the minds of the trajectory that it was fired from Russia, but we'll see.
All right, so unlikely that the missiles were fired from Russia. That's what Joe Biden has to say. But sticking with some more geopolitical updates, former President Donald Trump announced that he will once again be running for the 2024 U.S. presidential elections earlier this morning. So let's listen in to what he had to say.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. Together, we will be taking on the most corrupt forces and entrenched interests imaginable. Our country is in a horrible state. We're in grave trouble. This is not a task for a politician or a conventional candidate. This is a task for a great movement that embodies the courage, confidence, and the spirit of the American people. This will not be my campaign. This will be our campaign all together. Now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. For millions of Americans, the past 2 years under Joe Biden have been a time of pain, hardship, anxiety, and despair. As we speak, inflation is the highest in over 50 years. Gas prices have reached the highest levels in history and expect them to go much higher now that the strategic national reserves, which I filled up, have been virtually drained in order to keep gasoline prices lower just prior to the election. Joe Biden has intentionally surrendered our energy independence. There is no longer even a thought of dominance, and we are now begging for energy help from foreign nations, many of whom find us detestable. Our southern border has been erased, and our country is being invaded by millions and millions of unknown people, many of whom are entering for a very bad and sinister reason.
All right, so that's a significant bit of news coming in for the U.S. presidential elections, and a big one for their politics as well. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. But when we return, remember, 2 strong listings on Dalal Street today. We get you the management commentary and more details coming up from Bikaji Foods and hospital chain Global Health. Stay tuned for that.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. While it is quiet on the surface, a lot of stocks are seeing some action. So let's talk about a few of those. Metropolis Health is seeing sharp cuts today after sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the Income Tax Department is currently conducting searches at the Metropolis Health premises. So the search operations are underway at the company's premises in New Delhi, Mumbai, as well as Chennai. And the IT department is alleging that Metropolis has concealed income and also has unaccounted income, with the top management also under the scanner. So investigation is currently underway and we are awaiting further details on this story.
All right, so that's the story from Metropolis, but also not bad. Actually, some of the stocks are seeing some strong buying and interest as well, like hospital chain Global Health. That saw a strong debut on the bourses today, listing with gains of nearly 20% earlier this morning. And we got in touch with the management earlier today. Let's listen in to what they had to say about what investors are really betting on and the shareholder value that they're going to create.
We are currently at approximately 2,500 beds across the network, across the 5 hospitals that I mentioned. That's in Gurgaon, in Lucknow, in Patna, Ranchi and Indore. And these beds will scale up to about 3,500 by financial year 25. The bulk of that incremental capacity will come in Lucknow, which is currently operating at about 500 beds, and that will scale up to about 1,000 beds, 950 to 1,000 beds.
All right, that is the management of Global Health. But the other listing of today, ethnic snacks maker BKG Foods also saw a steady listing with gains of around 10% on debut. So earlier today, we spoke with Rishabh Jain, who's CFO at the company, and he believes that the company can grow at a rate of 20 to 25% in the quarters to come. Listen in.
Last 3-4 years we're growing at 22% CAGR, and it's a big industry. So this industry is close to 1.5 lakh crore of markets, and we are just a 600 crore rupees. We've done and it's a strong growth prospect which we looks in the coming decade, and it's a big industry, and we being done expansion across all part of India. So basically 240-250 crore of EBITDA will have close, 240-250 crore EBITDA will have close to 130-140 crore of PAT, because depreciation close to 40-45 crore. That's it. Currently, our core market is giving close to 72% of our business, and the focus market are giving close to 17-18% of our business. So yeah, of course, focus is always growing at 1.5 to 2 times of core market. So in next 3-4 years, it will this 17-18% we'll target to grow this to 20-23%.
All right, so that was from the IPO and the new debut counters coming in. But let's talk about a deal that we first broke here on CNBC-TV18 about TCNS Clothing, that being up for sale. Now, it is surging in trade today, that particular stock over 8% up on the reports that have come in some publishing some papers which suggest that multiple companies are looking at picking up the promoter stake in this particular company. Of course, not independently verified by CNBC-TV18, and also looking at the valuation dynamics. Some of these deals may look or may take a little longer. But Mangalam Malu joins us with what's been reported in other publications. Mangalam.
Well, that's correct. So TCNS is buzzing on the back of news reports which suggest that maybe the promoter's stake of the company is up for grabs, and there are a lot of takers for that. Reports suggest that the suitors would be Reliance Retail, there's Nykaa which is looking at it, Aditya Birla Fashion Retail, and even Trent have shown interest in buying TA Associates, 29.24% stake in the company. TA Associates, as we know, is a private equity firm which is also the promoter of TCNS Clothing. Reports also suggest that not just these companies, we have a couple of PEs showing interest as well, TPG Capital as well as the likes of Advent. TCNS Clothing, of course, as we know it, as the owner of women's wear brands like W as well as Aurelia. CNBC-TV18 had broken the story back in August itself. Nisha had alluded to it, that TCNS Clothing is on the block, or the promoter's stake is on the block, and now there seems to be a follow-up story on that one. And the fact that now the names are mentioned and the number of suitors are mentioned, the stock is seeing some traction.
Oh, absolutely. The stock is up almost 9% right now. Mangalam, thanks a lot for all of those details. But something else that we're tracking, the MSCI has released updates on the treatment of stocks of L&T Infotech as well as Mindtree post the merger. So Vivek is here to take us through the details. Vivek?
Well, that's right. So the only missing piece of the puzzle as far as the LTI and Mindtree merger was the fact that how exactly would passive indices treat both of the stocks post the merger actually happens. And now that both of the companies have gone ahead and said that November 24th is the record date, that has given clarity to the index manager. So MSCI has yesterday given an update saying that what's actually going to happen is that on the trading day of November 22nd, what will happen is Mindtree will be removed from the MSCI indices, and the weightage of LTI or Larsen & Toubro Infotech will actually be increased. In all likelihood, as per analysts, this could be a net neutral event in the fact that the outflows coming out of Mindtree would actually be quite similar to the amount of inflows that go into LTI. So it's an important event in terms of passive fund management, and November 22nd is the date on which this particular event will occur.
All right, after that mega merger. Thanks so much, Vivek, for all those details. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. But when we return, we'll get you the excerpts from CNBC's conversation with ace investor Charlie Munger on the crypto meltdown. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. A quick look at the market. Absolutely flat when it comes to Nifty 50, holding on to the 18,400 levels. But Bank Nifty is the one which has been outperforming. Some bit of sell-off that has been seen in some of the counters, like the largest bank, State Bank of India, while the banks otherwise are the strong hold for the market overall. Apollo Hospitals has also lost some ground, and IT Pack, which has otherwise been doing well, is seen some bit of profit booking in the last few minutes of trade. Keep an eye out on the markets, and especially the mid-cap universe, 0.3% down in trade. On to some action now coming in from the courtrooms today, and the Madras High Court has dismissed a petition challenging the constitutional validity of the online gaming ban in the state. And my colleague Jude Sanith has more details on this. Jude, this is an important issue. Some of the companies fate of which are really hinging on the government's actions. So it is an important development. And what does the Madras High Court verdict say, and what does it mean for the industry then?
Well, before we go into the circumstances that prevailed before that case against the online gambling ban stood withdrawn, let's bring you up to speed with regard to the court action itself. A two-member bench of the Madras High Court, also comprising Acting Chief Justice T. Raja, heard a petition from online gaming companies against the Tamil Nadu's online gambling ordinance, which of course later became a bill late last month. The counsel for the petition, of course, was Mukul Rohatgi, while the defense, that is the state government, was, of course, was represented by Kapil Sibal. Now, interestingly enough, the petitioners stated that despite not actually being, the ordinance not seeing the light of day in terms of gubernatorial assent, there was, of course, a sense of persecution by officers of the state going about threatening punitive action and also, telling online gaming companies to stop online gambling games in following, of course, that ban that was issued by the Tamil Nadu government, first by way of an ordinance and then a bill. The petitioners also stated that the fact that this was pretty much on the state's gazette meant that the executive, in this case the Tamil Nadu government, was treating this by and large as a ban that had seen the light of day. To which the counsel for the defendant, which is of course Kapil Sibal representing the Tamil Nadu government, stated and clarified, and this is important, that the ban had not in fact become a law since it hadn't received governor's assent yet, and that it is up to the executive, the state government in this case, to ensure that no punitive action be taken against online gaming companies so far as the run-up to the eventual completion of the ordinance and the bill is concerned, until it becomes a law. In conclusion, the Acting Chief Justice T. Raja of the Madras High Court stated that nowhere in the world does a court hear a case wherein a law has not come into effect yet and still petitioners want to challenge its constitutional validity. So the Chief Justice there asking the petitioners to come back to the court only after it becomes a law, and then the case would be heard. So in conclusion, that case stood withdrawn on request of the petitioners. The Madras High Court will of course hear it if it does come about again when a law actually takes effect.
All right, Ju, thanks a lot for getting us all of the details, and sounds like an interesting courtroom session. But with that, we're going to shift focus and talk about the cryptos then. In the fallout of the FTX collapse, which has the crypto universe on edge, ace investor and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, Charlie Munger, speaking to CNBC, said that cryptos are a combination of fraud and delusion and could be used for criminal activity. Listen in.
It pains me that in my own country, I see people that were once regarded as very reputable people helping these things exist, promoting their use and so forth. This is a very, very bad thing. The country did not need a currency that's good for kidnappers and so on.
What do you think happened? Because there are a lot of big names, a lot of people and firms that you might not have anticipated.
That's what impresses me. There are people who think they just got to be on every deal that's hot. And they don't care whether it's child prostitution or Bitcoin. If it's hot, they want to be on it. I think that's totally crazy. Reputation is very helpful in financial life. And to destroy your reputation by associating with scumballs and their scumball promotions is a huge mistake.
Do you think those companies did any due diligence, or what happened?
I think they actually mean well, though that you're seeing a lot of delusion. It's partly fraud and partly delusion. That's a bad combination. I don't like either fraud or delusion. And the delusion may be more extreme than the fraud.
Delusion, how so?
Nobody's going to bet a new thing that every 12-year-old kid can be a billionaire or something. He just calls it Munger coin. He starts trading it or something. It's crazy. It's demented.
All right, quite hard-hitting and strong statements against crypto investments by the ace investor. With that, it's a wrap on Business Lunch. Mid-Cap Radar is coming up next. Don't go anywhere.